A lot of people are huffing and puffing over Cracker Barrel's rebranding efforts to erase the old white man from their past, because the new CEO hates old white men. I mean, an old white man on your sign. Ooh. But then a lot of mostly white people didn't like the change. They felt that the new logo really sucked. Which it does. So the CEO of Cracker Barrel doubled down on dumb and decided to go back to the old logo. All of this has set off a firestorm on social media, with no one seemingly happy. But fear not, because Richard Taylor is going to step into the discussion and straighten us out with the facts, the reals, because he has researched this marketing decision for many nanoseconds. And well, you'll just have to experience this one for yourself. Just as a warning, however,
it's gonna hurt real bad. Right here.
Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
The Southern-based restaurant, the Cracker Barrel, has returned to what many people feel is the old racist logo after losing millions and millions of dollars in stock when they changed the logo from the old white man with overalls leaning against a Cracker Barrel. Now they face backlash from the conservatives who said they didn't like the organization's move to change the logo. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of history about what the Cracker Barrel really was and why I think this lady who you're going to hear wanted to change it to make it more diverse.
Now you're probably thinking that the name Cracker Barrel comes from the Cracker Barrels that were a common feature in old country stores. The Cracker Barrel has long been synonymous with country life, where people would meet and tell stories. It was the water cooler of the day. So that must have been why the first owners of Cracker Barrel gave it that name, to convey country living where people gathered back during simpler times, right? Well, it just shows you how dumb you really are. To understand the motivation for the name Cracker Barrel, we need to bring in a historical scholar, someone of high intellect and keen research skills. So we're going to get a history lesson here from Richard Taylor. Of course, he's going to comb online resources from authoritative sites and show us Cracker Barrel's sordid racist history. You see, the name Cracker Barrel has nothing to do with Cracker Barrels. No, it's about slavery. That's right, slavery. The Cracker Barrel restaurant on your street corner is really a plantation where the Ku Klux Klan meets every Saturday night to plot cross burnings on neighborhood lawns.
And welcoming to all people. You know, diversity is a code word for black people or minority. But I'm going to let you listen to this Fox News conservative article. Then I'm going to give you some more context behind this situation.
3 brands, 2 flops, and 1 awakening. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Well, we have breaking news tonight, just in from Fox Business. We got a statement. It's from Cracker Barrel. It's doing a U-turn on its disastrous rebrand. Here's the statement. We thank our guests for sharing your voices and your love for Cracker Barrel. We said we would listen, and we have. Our new logo is going away, and our old timer will remain.
If I was on their board, I would advise Cracker Barrel that if you really want to listen to your customer base, it would be better to market survey them before dumping millions of dollars into a rebrand. Let's be clear, Cracker Barrel didn't give a flying fuck about the voices of its customers until it appeared that they were going to lose their ass over it. One of my misgivings about Cracker Barrel's handling of this issue was its messaging. Their statements to the public didn't seem to emanate from the salt-of-the-earth old hands with homespun wisdom type. Everything sounded right out of a marketer's brochure for selling timeshares.
Well, that's good news. They didn't make any statement on their lousy interior renovations, making that all look white and bland, but we're waiting for that turnaround as well. That might take a while. But it was an admission of failure and a move to stop what appeared to many to be a woke rebranding of an iconic restaurant chain. But despite their U-turn, it's worth remembering and understanding how this happened. Now, last year, CEO Julie Masino rolled out her 3-year plan to freshen up the restaurant chain.
Our goal is to take what people love about Cracker Barrel and open the aperture a little bit so that more people love Cracker Barrel. So we want to appeal to all generations.
Sounds nice. So they plan to slowly but surely undermine what the brand stood for all along, which was Americana. It was a feel that harkens back to a simpler time. We all know it. But like all propaganda, the goal for the time of the rebrand was to convince you that the rebrand is what people really wanted.
Not only are our guests loving them, they're saying things like lighter, brighter, fresher, feels like my Cracker Barrel, but they're also saying it's still the warm hospitality, it's still the food that I love, the decor is still on the walls, they love it, and our team members love them as well.
So who's Julie Masino? Well, she's from Nashville. And if you think that makes her a country girl, well, you don't know Nashville. She might as well be from Austin, Texas, or Minneapolis. I can almost guarantee you that she's a liberal Democrat who thinks her pop country playlist of Dolly Parton and the Dixie Chicks makes her somehow honky-tonk. And if any of you believe a word she says, then you're dumber than Richard. I mean, who amongst us talks like that? Whatever happened to just talking like a human being? Like,
we did a lot of market research, and it told us that we needed to shift our branding to widen our customer base. Cracker Barrel was founded on a simple country feel, and obviously we don't want to lose that, but our branding was just too quaint to reach a wider audience. You'll notice that marketing is now shifting toward much simpler branding, and that's true for cars, computers, and restaurants. So we felt that we needed to go in that direction as well. And if it turns out that we have misfired, then we'll seriously reconsider.
As it stands, she pissed off half of her customer base, blew millions of dollars, and the company is right back where it started.
Friends of mine say it looks like a veterinarian office. But Julie kept going. The hard sell kept happening in June.
The feedback and the buzz is so good, not only from our customers, but from our team members. They want to work in a wonderful restaurant. So,
how would you like to be talked to like this throughout your workday? I've met some phonies who talk like Julie, and I can't fucking stand them. I'd rather listen to a stream of Liberty Mutual ads or gangsta rap lyrics without the cool beat than a boardroom presentation by Julie Masino.
We're doing everything for our guests and our team members.
Well, that was August, obviously, but the consumers we know now revolted. The stock, well, it had been struggling for a while, but the decline over the last 3 weeks since that new logo rollout was a disaster. Sorry for the pun, it hit the bottom of the barrel.
It's not so much that the stock lost. Company stocks go up and down. If you look at the graph, the loss in its stock's value seems nothing out of the ordinary. The problem was that you're supposed to get a stock bump after you unroll a major rebrand. Forget the loss of customers. That's often temporary. Cracker Barrel's old customers will gradually go back to the restaurant. The real problem is that Cracker Barrel lost confidence from its investors that it was going to attract a wider customer base. They looked at the rebrand and decided that it would do nothing to turn around the company's fortunes. And since you only get one good shot at a rebrand every decade or so, investors figured that Cracker Barrel would simply continue on its long, steady decline. The fact that they have no confidence in Julie's leadership doesn't exactly help matters any, especially the way she talks to people. My God, that's bad.
So what was the motivation here? Because when you really think this through, no one in his or her right mind would have thought that going from this, featuring Uncle Herschel, to this, blah, computer-generated nothing, would have appealed to core customers in Paducah, Kentucky, or East Ridge, Tennessee.
It's clear that Cracker Barrel was trying to carve out some of Denny's and IHOP's customer base and was perfectly willing to ditch its older, rustic customer base. You'll notice that they even changed the font to something blander. Compare the capital C's. If they had kept the old font, that would have retained some of the country feel from the old logo. You need to spice up the border to get away from that Denny's look, but nothing too radical because you're trying to move toward a graphically cleaner design. As it stands, this was a pretty radical departure in logo design. If you're going to make that change, you gotta stick to it. There's no going back.
So what did happen? Was this a simple corporate boo-boo? Or was this actual hostility to traditional country culture somewhere in the corporation itself? Online commentator Robbie Starbuck pointed to Cracker Barrel board member Gilbert Davila, who was put on the board, interestingly, during the height of the George Floyd hysteria. Starbuck asked, what qualified Davila for this board seat? Well, he owned a DEI consulting and strategy firm for 15 years that focuses on pushing DEI and DEI advertising.
The company's intentions here were pretty clear. White man, bad.
Huh. Well, do you think Davila, with his background and his views, loved the idea of any rebrand or any brand celebrating country culture? From Fox Business, Davila's LinkedIn page states that he's widely recognized for his multicultural market knowledge and his proven track record on how to best embed multicultural perspective into a corporation's entire operation. Well, that's what it certainly looks like might have happened here. In 2020, Cracker Barrel was feeling the heat, remember? And he put this woke fool on its board. So a lot of people thought, well, it just deserved everything it was going to get for ditching what made them special. And in the process, insulting middle America and giving into corporate groupthink. Well, Trump thought, look, he saw this and he was being magnanimous. He urged them to do a U-turn, saying Cracker Barrel should go back to the old logo.
Trump has no business getting involved in this. He's a government official. Cracker Barrel is a private company. Cracker Barrel can do whatever the hell it wants, and it doesn't need Trump's advice. Well, here we go. Richard is now going to weigh in. But before we hear from him, you may be wondering if Cracker Barrel is going to go back to its original decor. I wouldn't expect them to. In reality, the rebrand was Julie's first mistake. Backing out of the rebrand would be her second. Cracker Barrel is like a submarine stuck on the ocean floor. You get one shot at blowing the ballast and reaching the surface, and if that doesn't work, you're dead. Good or bad, Julie has to stick with the anti-white rebrand and hope to beat hell that it pays off in the long run. Backtracking does what? Cracker Barrel is on a long decline, but it can't afford to go back where it started. What could it do then? It already burned through millions of dollars that it can't recover to try something else. So at this point, we've had a reasonably intelligent discussion about marketing and branding. You might disagree. Okay, but I know my subscriber base, and I trust that the comment section will contain thoughtful banter about the company's decisions. Time now to set aside the business management curriculum and pull out the bong pipe, because Richard is going to weigh in, and within a few minutes, you'll be kissing your brain cells goodbye. Here goes.
All right. So there's the Fox News reporter using all the racist buzzwords when first talking about the restaurant and its decor, but also talking about the CEO who got on the Cracker Barrel's board.
He's evidently talking about Davila, but he's not the CEO. As a board member, it would be rather weird for him to be the CEO. So right away, Richard screws up. He doesn't even know that the CEO is Julie, the one that was just being interviewed. The one that has CEO written below her name.
Calling him a woke fool. And he was put on the board in the middle of the George Floyd hysteria. That's what they're calling the police death of this man, a George Floyd hysteria. Now, the new CEO or the CEO was talking about opening up to, a newer generation, wider audience of people. Basically, once again, she's talking about, let's get this racist memorabilia out of here.
That would make sense if they had Confederate flags on the walls or slavery equipment. But watch how Richard defines racist memorabilia. And by the way, is Davila a DEI fool? Well, how's it working out so far?
They started talking about the decor, and then they show 3 old white men sitting down eating, calling it, it represents a older, simpler time. It represents Americana and, appeasing to middle America. All of those are buzzwords for basically racist old white people. And you see the designs, they had old shotguns and muskets looking like a Confederate war plantation style museum.
Yeah. You see, during the Civil War, the North didn't have any guns. That would be racist. It was the South who had the shotguns and the muskets. And what other racist memorabilia bothers him? We have a pair of blacksmith tongs and farm equipment, stuff used by working people. Richard's ilk can see racism in everything. Here's one of his commenters. Also see the whip coming off the K and Cracker circling the logo. And Richard responds, wow, just notice that. Yeah, this is clearly a whip used for beating slaves. Of course. You thought I was joking about the bong pipe, didn't you?
And then they also stated traditional country culture. What is that? Slavery, Jim Crow, black codes, all of those things where blacks couldn't go into restaurants like Cracker Barrel.
At this point, his characterization of country life is just comical, because he cannot comment on any topic without making it about race. Slave owners were your ultra-rich dudes back in the day, Richard. The imagery that Cracker Barrel tried to portray was that of Little House on the Prairie or the Waltons. By simpler times, they mean a time when no one was in a hurry, when boys were boys and girls were girls. People weren't wound up on fentanyl. You could go into a pharmacy and not need to have the clerk unlock the shaving cream. And yeah, perhaps that imagery appeals to older white people more than any other demographic. I don't know. But what's wrong with that? There's a soul food restaurant in Tulsa that clearly caters to black people. Fine. If they think they can stay afloat with that marketing approach, why should I have any issue with it? And if I liked soul food, and I don't, I'd have no problem going in there as long as they treated me with respect. They didn't spit in my food. Richard's problem is that he simply hates white people. He absolutely hates them. He sees this picture of three white dudes having a good time, and it just itches his walnut-sized brain.
And then they mention some towns, Paducah, Kentucky, and East Ridge, Tennessee. Ain't no black people in those places.
Paducah, Kentucky is 22% black, and East Ridge, Tennessee is about 12%. So he even screwed that up. How long would it have taken him to Google the demographics of the towns before opening his goofy mouth?
Very little, but also, mind you, the restaurant was started in Tennessee. And I forgot Lebanon, Tennessee. And if you look up Lebanon, Tennessee, that is one of the most racist history places in America. And
at this point, he should tell us why he's making that claim. He's totally defaming a town. Okay, based on what? He just says it.
All of their restaurants are based in the southern part of the United States. I think they have 55 in Texas, I think, 47 in Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, which all four states are traditionally known to have some racist enclaves.
All of the Cracker Barrels are in the South? That's strange, because I distinctly remember seeing one in Bakersfield when I lived there. And by golly, here's a picture of it. And looky here, Cracker Barrels in New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. I thought that those states fought for the Union. As I said before, Richard can't get anything right. Nothing.
But let's get back to the gist of it, which is the title. Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel.
Oh, hell. It's going to get dumber. You're not going to believe this. Seriously, it's really dumb.
Right? So back in slavery times, they had the whip. The whip was also known as the cracker because it made a crack, right? And also the person who used the whip they called him the cracker or a cracker.
No, I don't believe the whipper was ever called a cracker. The cracker, by the way, is that part of the whip that breaks the sound barrier and therefore makes that cracking sound. It isn't the entire whip, just the tip.
Hence the derogatory term for white people today, cracker.
No one knows for sure why white people are called crackers, but we do know that the term was used all the way back to Shakespeare. This article, which I will link in my description, makes a strong argument that the term was used as a slur against poor white Scots-Irishmen that settled in Florida and Georgia. The slur traveled with them from the old country. Here's a book by Dana St. Clair called Cracker that researches the term as thoroughly as anyone ever has. Regardless, I think you see where Richard is going with this.
But where do they put these crackers or the whips at? They put them in the cracker barrel.
I'm imagining a barrel with a bunch of white dudes stored in it. You open the barrel and Gus and Fred poke their heads out. What's up, guys? He's referring to the whips, of course, but that doesn't exactly improve matters. Why would you store whips inside a barrel? Of all the ways to store a whip, the barrel would be the last I would consider. And in fact, I've never heard of a barrel used this way. Yes, your IQ loss is permanent. Sorry.
The cracker barrel. And that is what they're seeing when they see that old racist man. And I just have to say he's a racist because that's the whole gist of their argument. Oh, woke, this DEI and George Floyd and simpler, greater America and traditional, all of those are buzzwords for old Southern racism. But that is why they wanted that man up there just once again, everything is symbolic, just to let people know, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I can crack you anytime I want. And
yeah, that's what the guy is thinking. He's leaning against his barrel full of whips, just itching to pull one out and crack you with it. I figured everyone knew what a cracker barrel was, but then we're talking about Richard Taylor here. For all you Richard Taylor subscribers, let me clue you in. A cracker barrel holds, get this, crackers, soda crackers. Crackers had to be stored in something very sturdy because they're easy to break. But the barrels also function as furniture. You could pull your chair up to one, place a checkerboard on top, and play checkers. Don't believe me? Here's a cracker barrel in a 1960s sitcom called Green Acres. And, gee, is that checkers they're playing? As I said before, the cracker barrel served as the water cooler of the day. It's where people gathered and reflected and told stories. Simpler times, Americana. The Cracker Barrel was a perfect logo for what Cracker Barrel restaurants were trying to convey. Slavery? Really? Oh, come on.
And that is their representation. That is why those people were so mad that they changed the logo to the much blander logo that just says Cracker Barrel. And the DEI woke fool, he knew exactly what he was doing, or she did as well, when removing that old racist logo. But
they knew what they were doing? Gee, then why are they going back to the old logo? But she was trying to purge the brand of its country image. She wants the restaurant to go cosmopolitan. Woke, because she's cosmopolitan. Woke.
Nevertheless, as normal, when white people cry loud enough and they take their money away, then people bend to their wishes. And that's what we need to do as well. Don't just take it away for a day. No, just literally take our money out of it. Don't support it until we get the necessary things that we want. But I just had to share this because I've been seeing it. I got some people that love that restaurant. I went a couple of times. I never liked the food, and now I know why.
Because racist food tastes bad? He could taste the racism in that food. Oh, that was terrible. He'd bite into that fried chicken. This tastes racist.
because, you know, it's definitely started in a racist town. And as you see, they represent a lot of people who want to represent the traditional country culture of a older, simpler time with mythical American values.
Do you notice how he mocks traditional American values? This isn't just about racism. The idea of the simpler times, you know, where you could leave your car doors unlocked and go down to the store and have a good time talking to your friends, it burns him up. He hates that. Oh, and by the way, where does Richard live? North Carolina. Gee, it can't be too bad because he chooses to live there.
Where we wasn't included. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. Y'all see the number 919-587-7782. Thank y'all for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Most of all, peace and blessings.
So what is it about Americana that bothers him so much? You see, Cracker Barrel's customers reject seeing some dude peeing in a subway car in front of children. They grimace at street takeovers and mob pilfering of pharmacies. They reject puberty blockers and having perverts dress up in women's clothes to read books to their kids. They saw the marketing move by the new CEO as an abandonment of those things they value, hard work and sensible living. I can all but guarantee you that the new CEO is all in for puberty blockers and donkey show story hour at the local elementary school. Personally, I don't go to Cracker Barrel because I had the worst peach cobbler ever there. The rest of the menu was, in my opinion, a cut below that of Denny's. I don't like it. And I'm not going to go there out of political concerns. Because I'm not that political. I don't center all of my decision-making about politics. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.